I wish to thank the Prime Minister, Albanese, the officials who have been working in DFAT on securing Julian's release. I'd also like to thank the Australian people who have made this possible, because without their support, there would not be the political space to be able to achieve Julian's freedom. And that support is across the board. I thank the opposition for also supporting Julian's release. It took all of them. It took millions of people. It took people working behind the scenes, people protesting on the streets for days and weeks and months and years. And we achieved it. Julian wanted me to sincerely thank everyone. He wanted to be here. But you have to understand what he's been through. He needs time. He needs to recuperate. And this is a process. I ask you, please, to give us space, to give us privacy, to find our place, to let our family be a family before he can speak again at a time of his choosing. I think it's important to recognize that Julian's release and the breakthrough in the negotiations came at a time when there had been a breakthrough in the legal case in the UK, in the extradition, where the High Court had allowed permission to appeal. There was a court date set for the 9th and 10th of July, an upcoming court date in which Julian would be able to raise the First Amendment argument at the High Court. And it is in this context that things finally started to move. I think it revealed how uncomfortable the United States government is in fact of having these arguments aired, because the fact is that this case is an attack on journalism, it's an attack on the public's right to know, and it should never have been brought. Julian should never have spent a single day in prison. But today we celebrate, because today Julian is free.
That moment on the tarmac where you embraced Julian must have been incredibly surreal. Was that the moment you realised that this was over?
Yes, I was overcome by emotion when I first heard that there were crowds cheering that I didn't even know were there behind a fence because it was dark. And then I heard them cheer more and more and flashes, and then I turned the corner and then I saw that Julian was coming, and we embraced, and I mean, I think you've seen the pictures. I don't want to express in words what is obvious from the image.
Stella, what comes next for Julian Assange? Will this revitalise WikiLeaks? Will it pursue a career in politics? What happens? What's next?
Julian needs time to recover, to get used to freedom. Someone told me yesterday who had been through something similar that freedom comes slowly, and I want Julian to have that space to rediscover freedom slowly and quickly.
So you called yesterday your hopes for a pardon to be granted to Julian. How do you see that playing out? Would you like the Australian government to support that call? What can be possibly done to actually achieve that outcome in your view?
Look, I think today we celebrate Julian's freedom. Today is the day that the plea deal was approved by the judge. I think it's also a day where I hope journalists and editors and publishers everywhere realize the danger of this U.S. case against Julian that criminalizes, that has secured a conviction for news gathering and publishing information that was in the public interest, that was true, that the public deserved to know. And that precedent now can and will be used in the future against the rest of the press. So it is in the interest of all of the press to seek for this current state of affairs to change through reform of the Espionage Act, through increased press protections, and yes, eventually, when the time comes, not today, a pardon.
Stella, can I ask how hopeful and how confident are you that your husband will be pardoned? And what do you think has been at the absolute core of the shifting sands here that's enabled his release?
I think freedom of the press is in a very dangerous place. It's not evident that it will move towards more protections, but rather less. There needs to be a conscious and joint effort to push back, and that pushback should have resulted in the dropping of the case against Julian. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. That would have been the only good outcome for the press in general if the U.S. government had abandoned this case entirely. Now you have the press in a as vulnerable position as Julian has been. And that came the day the indictment came down. Let's be clear about that. That didn't come down with this conviction. And frankly, that mobilization should have happened years ago. And that's what enabled the conviction.
So, is Mr. Assange...
I think he'll be pardoned if the press unite to push back against this precedent. Because it affects all of you. It affects your future ability to inform the public and to publish without fear.
Is Mr. Assange going to meet the Prime Minister in the coming days?
No comment.
Does Julian plan to keep going with WikiLeaks and publish more documents, more journalism?
Look, he just arrived in Australia after being in a high-security prison for over 5 years and a, 72-hour flight or something like that. It's premature. Julian has to recover. That's the priority. And the fact is that Julian will always defend human rights, will always defend victims, He's always done that. And that's just part of who he is. He is deeply principled. And he remains deeply principled and unafraid.
Is there